Hey everyone, welcome back to the Collector's Compass, the official podcast of Collectors MD, where we explore the intersection of collecting, mental wellness, and responsible engagement across the modern hobby and beyond. I'm your host, Alyx Efron, founder of Collectors MD, and today's conversation is a little bit different, but in a lot of ways, it sits right at the center of what this show is really about. Because the mindset that helps someone build strength in the gym is often the same mindset that helps someone build a meaningful life and even a meaningful collection. My guest today is Dave Paladino. Dave is the owner of Impact Zone Fitness in Norwood, New Jersey. He's also a martial artist and someone who has spent more than 35 years helping athletes, celebrities, and everyday people build stronger bodies and more disciplined lives. Outside the gym, Dave is also a lifelong collector who has been passionate about sports cards since he was a kid and now shares that same passion with his son. Dave and I also go way back. Long before Collectors MD existed, I was training at Dave's gym, Core Fitness, in Closter, New Jersey, throughout high school and college. That place was a huge part of my life growing up. So today's conversation is about a lot of things. It's about discipline, it's about community, it's about how hobbies evolve as we get older, and it's about how the same mindset that helps someone train consistently for decades can also shape the way we approach collecting. Dave, really glad to have you, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here, and congratulations on this new platform, man. I'm proud of you, man. Seriously.
I appreciate that, Dave. All right, we're going to dive right in. So our first segment is sort of bringing it full circle, right? From core to where you are today. So you've been in the fitness world for more than 35 years now. When you look back at the early days, what originally pulled you into the fitness and training industry?
So I was a pretty good baseball player back in the day. Got a bunch of offers to a bunch of different colleges, chose one, got hurt, and then came back home and started working out. And believe it or not, became a bouncer down at the Jersey Shore. Ran a bunch of clubs for years. I was also personal bodyguard for the Sopranos for 8 years. Training during that whole time, and then wanted to get out of that industry and became a personal trainer. Went to school, started training some clients, and then I saw the opportunity to open up my own place, and that's where I opened up Core Fitness, where you obviously worked out for a long time. And then once I got out of Core Fitness, I opened up Impact Zone because I wanted to go a little bit bigger, a little different route than my partners. I had a different vision, so I came over Norwood and I opened up Impact Zone. I've been there ever since. So that's kind of like, from being an athlete, being in martial arts, and kind of like putting it all together, because I developed another program here also called Strike Zone. It's like the signature program of martial arts and striking with a strength component to it. So it all came like full circle. Everything that I was doing in my life obviously was a good fit for me to be in the fitness industry. I like it. I enjoy it. That's one of the big things in life. If you're going to work, do what you do. You're doing this now. You're loving it. So again, I'm proud of you for this.
I appreciate that.
And that's where we are now. We have this beautiful, I just expanded. We have this beautiful 50,000 square foot facility. It's amazing here. A lot of really great individuals, aside from the celebrities and the pro athletes. A lot of amazing individuals from all over, changing their lives, bettering themselves through fitness. So it's a pretty fun thing to be involved in. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few of my buddies still work out at Impact Zone. I don't know if you know Sean McHugh. I think he's there super early every day.
I just trained someone right before this when I texted you and said I was getting a little late. Mr. Sloan, Kenny Sloan.
Kenny Sloan's a legend.
I
heard he just recently retired from
yes, he did. Yeah,
dentistry.
Yes, he did.
I love it. Yeah, Kenny's son, Steve, one of my best friends growing up, he was the one who introduced me and our circle of friends to Core. I want to say like junior year of high school. We started all, lifting weights in Kenny's gym, in his basement. He had this little makeshift
gym. He has a gym in the basement.
Yep. He's a big big cycler. He, had all these Lance Armstrong framed posters and memorabilia down there. Man, it feels like yesterday, but it was obviously like what 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
But yeah, so like you said, for me personally, core fitness was a huge part of my life growing up. Steve and I, our buddy Luke, we spent countless hours there, training both in high school, in college, and even early on in my professional career. So when you started working at Core back in the day, what was your vision for the kind of gym you wanted to build?
So I started off as the director of fitness there. A small group of guys brought me in, and they wanted me to be the fitness director. Well, I don't know. You should remember they opened up the sports academy that was on the across on the corner, Northern Valley Sports Academy. It's like a baseball.
Yes, yeah, I remember that place.
So I was the fitness director at this facility, and my vision was at that time. It's obviously changed now. Was to have a very, very clean place for everybody to come if you're a ballet dancer all the way to the seasoned athlete. So I wanted to accommodate everyone with obviously the right types of equipment, atmosphere, and training protocols. So that's kind of like what my vision was. And then it expanded into the strike zone because obviously I'm a martial artist. So I built a boxing area and for professional fighters to come and train. We had a lot then. And then once that kind of like ran its course because of the wellness aspect of it now, that's why I came and I opened up in Norwood. I opened up Impact Zone. So Impact Zone is incorporates everything I just mentioned, but it has a full wellness, cold plunges, red light therapy, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're going to get into a little bit more about Impact Zone shortly, but I do want to just mention, one thing I always felt when I walked into Core, and Core was literally the first gym that I was ever a member at, so it really set the bar high for me. I went to Penn State, and so I had access to some really beautiful facilities there, but there was something about Core where it wasn't just a gym, it was a community, right? Like all the people knew each other, we pushed each other. Like I remember the Dominguez brothers, and
they all worked for me.
Yep, they're great. Rob, what's his last name? Forget his last name, but Tommy Ratto and
Tommy's still here.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the picture of him, with his trophy, after a bodybuilding contest right outside of your office at Core. I always look at that. That was like such inspiration. But yeah, him and the DeAndrea brothers, like all those guys. So
very community oriented, like you said, and that community, that whole concept of the community close knit, that actually moved over to here. So it's the same. It's the same here. Like, you guys grew up, and now the more people, the next generation's growing up in here, and then the next generation. So
it's awesome.
It's a great thing to see.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, what do you think makes a gym become something more than just a room with weights and exercise machines?
Very simple. The people. It's the people. Hands down. There's nothing to even think about. It's the people who steer the ship, who row the boat, right? You could have the best equipment. You could have the best of anything, the best shakes, the best equipment, the best music. You could have everything. But it's the people. It's the people who run this place, from my front counter people to my most important people, to my maintenance people, who are the backbone of this facility. They are the backbone of this facility, and I thank them every day. It's everybody who works here. Okay? Yeah. And if one of my late Shians in martial arts said to me, "You cannot be an island unto yourself." So I try to surround myself with the best individuals, and I have them here, and that's a huge part of the success of this facility.
Yeah, you're very fortunate, but I also think it's not a coincidence, right, that you're surrounded by such great people and you've seen so much success. smart and successful people have a way to attract other smart and successful people. And so I'm really proud of you. And like,
thank you. I appreciate that a lot, man.
I've known you for 20 plus years. And like, when I first started coming to the gym as a kid, I looked up to you. You were this strapping, and you still are, martial artist, and you're a big guy, and you ran that place. So full circle moment, I think, in 2020, when I realized that you were also a collector, and we started talking about, that sort of thing. We're going to touch on that shortly. But
that was fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, especially, when we were all on lockdown. So I want to get a little bit more into building impact zones. So this is segment 2. So after years of running core, you eventually moved on to building and opening impact zone, which you mentioned. And this place is massive, right? Like over 50,000 square feet, one of the biggest facilities in Bergen County, New Jersey. So what inspired you to take that next step and build something at that sort of scale?
So to be frank, quite honest, I had a different vision than my partners, and it was coming to a head over at Core. And I knew where the fitness industry was going. They didn't understand it because they were involved in a different industry, and they didn't want to actually go to where I wanted to go. So I had to leave. I knew I had to leave. It was a dead end there. So I left, and I was kind of in limbo for a little bit. I went over to a place called One Fitness. My friend Angelo Mazzo owned it, and I was there. I was training my clients there and running classes, and I was contemplating what I wanted to do. Should I open a studio? And then I said, you know what? I want to open a full-fledged fitness center, and I went for it. And I'm telling you, Alyx, I just went for it. I drew the place on a napkin, and I handed it to my friend who's an architect, a very good friend of mine, Kurt Otto. And I said, here. And he drew out the plans and made this big place, and he said, let's do it. I said, okay. And I went out and I found the money. I went out because, at that time I was a personal trainer. I went out, I found the money. I built this place from ground level. It was an open warehouse. There was only a bathroom in it. It was a lighting company. And I built this place up, and I kept improving, and it is the number one fitness center in the state of New Jersey right now.
That's super impressive. I haven't, admittedly haven't seen it in person yet. And my folks moved from Bergen County to East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, about a year ago. So we're no longer in North Jersey. However, we visit from time to time when we hang out with Sean and his wife and, his baby boy. And we have some other friends that are still up in the valley. So next time I'm in town, I'll swing by and
100%.
chop up in person. So when people walk into Impact Zone today, what do you want them to feel?
So when they walk in, I initially, obviously, it's a wow factor. It's like, everything is meticulously neat and clean. I am absolutely, crazy about the cleanliness of this facility. So I want them to get a little bit of a wow factor, but I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel relaxed, that no one is here to judge them, that everybody's here to help. So the customer service aspect of my facility is paramount. I focus on that a lot. From the first time you walk in to that front desk, to the front desk people, which are the most valuable people. So, first impressions, you walk in somewhere and you're looking around, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, wherever, and you get turned off a little bit, you're not really, you're thinking twice already. So I don't want that. I want them to feel comfortable, welcomed, and then when they go on the tour, I want them to see that we can provide an atmosphere for them, not only safe atmosphere, but anything that they need. Anything that they need is in fitness related, health related. It's in this building.
Yeah, 100%. Man, there's a gentleman who I now work for. I mentioned to you that I work part-time at Right Choice Recovery here in Jersey, which is a treatment center for substance abuse and gambling addiction, mental health, behavioral issues, things of that nature. And I lead group meetings for gambling addiction every Monday and Tuesday night. And, just to take a step back, I was actually a graduate from that program about 3 years ago.
Congratulations.
And thank you. The owner, Rob Sakowitz, when I met him for the first time, I remember thinking of you because your personalities, you look very different, but your personalities are very similar in that, if you ask Rob that same question, and I'm going to have Rob on the show eventually, he's a very busy man, but if you ask Rob that same question, that's exactly what he would tell you. He just wants people to feel comfortable. He wants people to feel warm and welcome. And that's what it's all about, man. So at some point, maybe I'll have to introduce you guys,
Absolutely.
His friend.
Absolutely.
He's a Jersey guy. And I was inspired by Rob, when I first heard his story, because, he just celebrated 13 years of sobriety. And what he did was, rather than succumbing to his addictions, I should say, he took his biggest weakness and he turned it into his best asset in order to help people. And I thought that was such an incredible thing. And it's something that really just stuck with me over the last, several years since I've known him. And it's ultimately what inspired me to start Collectors MD and do what I'm doing today. So
that's awesome. Awesome.
So one last question on Impact Zone. So you've trained everyone from everyday members to professional athletes and celebrities. So from your experience, what separates the people who really transform their lives from the people who struggle to stay consistent?
Discipline. You have to have the discipline. Like you could be motivated. Anybody could be motivated, right? You can wake up and say, sunny day today, I am motivated to get in shape. But if you don't have the discipline to get your butt to the gym or do something about it, you're never gonna. It's discipline. It's you waking up, and the days you want to do something, you have to do it, right? You have to do it, and that is the number one required asset to achieve anything in life. Anything. Like when I opened this place up, I had to have the discipline to be here night and day, mopping floors, sweeping, contacting the people for the money, to contact the people to work here. It's just, I could have sat home and said, hey, you're going to go to the gym and do this. And it wouldn't have worked. Yeah. So even in my personal life with my son, like I want him to excel in martial arts. He's doing that in baseball. I have the discipline to be at I'm his coach, to be at his practices, to run from practice. And by the way, this is a lot of parents, run over to his martial arts where I teach. I'm one of the instructors there now. And then run him over to guitar lessons, right? So if I want him to excel in all these things, not only does he have to have the discipline, I have to have the discipline to facilitate that, to get him there, to be there. Now, look, I want to lay on the couch and watch the Yankees. I want to lay on the couch and watch Sports Center. But like I said, you got to wake up. My alarm's off at 5. I'm the owner of this facility, and I was here at 7 o'clock training clients, right? So, number one, to get back to your question, discipline. Do you have to have the rest of the stuff? Intestinal fortitude? Yes. Do you have to be dedicated? Of course. Do you have to be motivated? Of course. Yeah, but all those things don't work without the discipline. And that's Absolutely. It.
Yeah, really well said. We say this, we use this expression often in recovery, and I think it applies to, fitness and just healthier lifestyles. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Yep. Discipline is everything. Discipline compounds in the gym and in life, right? Like one workout isn't going to change your body. One good decision isn't going to change your life, but you stack those choices every single day in and day out, one day at a time. And I promise you, things will start to shift, right? Strength builds, habits form, confidence grows. And it's the same thing outside of the gym, showing up, keeping your word, doing the small things right. It all adds up over time. Discipline doesn't usually feel dramatic in the moment, right? Because like they tell you, stay disciplined. You show up for a couple of days, you show up for a couple of weeks, and you're like, not seeing much progress, not seeing much results. But give it enough time and the results start to speak for themselves.
Correct. 100%.
So we're going to transition over to the next segment, which is martial arts and mental discipline. So we're going to stay on the topic a bit. You're also a trained martial artist, as we had discussed earlier, which adds another layer to your philosophy around training. Not many people know this about me, and I mentioned to you right before we went live. I myself practiced Taekwondo throughout the duration of my childhood up until I was 17, 18 years old, and moved all the way up the ranks to a third degree black belt. So I can totally relate to the lifestyle and mindset that it takes to get there. So how did martial arts shape the way you think about discipline and consistency?
So, obviously, I started at a younger. I actually started. I didn't start as young as you. I started after I was injured playing baseball. I went over to martial arts. I was about 18 years old. So I started at 18, and it developed me where it taught me that I had to show up daily and put in the work, blood, sweat, and tears, in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was at the time, a black belt. I saw when I was younger, oh, I want to be a black belt, so it's, but obviously when you become a black belt, that's your journey starts at black belt.
Right.
But in order to achieve that, and then like they say, a black belt is just a white belt that never gave up. And and in order to do that, you had to have discipline. You had to show up every day. You had to practice. Even when you were off the mat and you went home. Yeah, I used to when I used to leave my first dojo. I used to go home and I was obsessed. I would practice over and over in the mirror, over in the mirror. There was times when and I'm not telling anybody to do this, but there was times I would cut college and go into the dojo in the afternoon and work out in the afternoon just to get extra practice. So there's a tremendous amount of discipline, intestinal fortitude, and it builds character. What I've built from the martial arts carried over into my career now, into the industry. I am what I am today through martial arts, 100%. There's no question about it. I am a better person. I am a better son, father, husband, and that's all through martial arts and what it has given me in my life. And I would not change it at all.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, what I've always respected about martial arts is that it helps people, kids, adults, build that foundation, right? Especially for kids, you build it early. You learn to show up. You follow a set structure, a rigid structure. You respect the process, and you repeat the basics over and over. I like the expression you said that a black belt is just a white belt that never gave up, right? Like progress doesn't come from just one big moment. It comes from these small improvements every day, every class, right? Like every belt test. Over time, that routine teaches patience, accountability, self-control, which tends to carry over into the rest of life, like you said. So, I think outside of discipline, the other thing that martial arts does a really good job of teaching is patience, right? You can't rush mastery. Do you think that mindset is something people struggle with today?
Yes, because everything in today's society has to be instantaneous.
Right.
Instantaneous. I want something, I click it, I swipe it to the right. It's instantaneous, right? I want instantaneous chat GTP will answer all my questions. I want instantaneous this. I want muscles instantaneously. I want this. I want that. And it's all at everybody's fingertips because today's society is so used to getting everything so quickly, so fast, so easily that the martial artist has to take time to develop the skill to reach black belt or whatever the pinnacle of, if you're a professional fighter or whatever. And it's not instantaneous. So it teaches patience, and it teaches discipline, teaches honor, respect, and confidence. And these are big tools that I feel like with my son need to go out into the real world, because again, everything's very fast in today's age. Everybody wants it tomorrow. They want it tomorrow. And sometimes they're not willing to sacrifice the amount of time it does take to get real good and proficient at something. and it's in martial arts, you're not getting anything instantaneous. You gotta put your time in, and that's one of the things I loved about martial arts.
Yeah, well said. We live in a society now where everything is just in your face. Everybody's got short-term memory, needs quick bursts of validation and dopamine to feel that excitement, that stimulation. And when you take a step back and recalibrate and think about the important things in life, nothing in life that is meaningful or holds long-term value comes overnight. You have to work for it. You have to be disciplined. You have to be patient. So again, I think martial arts just does such a great job of teaching that. So when you zoom out and look at people who succeed long term, not just in fitness, but business, in life, just in general, what mindset do they all tend to share?
So the successful people that I'm around, there's always the same common denominator, right? It's always they always came from a struggle, right? They always came from no one around me or my friends or my business partners, walked in one day and they were rich, right? They always came from a, a struggle. Like they came from nothing and built this great empire. And I have a lot of friends like that. And that that journey shows 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 great intestinal fortitude and the willingness not to give up. Right?
Right.
It's like I've fallen and I've gotten back up. I've
Right.
fallen, I've gotten back up. I've failed, I've gotten back up. I believe all my great accomplishments have come through my failures, all of them, and that my friends share a similar mindset. So I believe that through my trials and tribulations, I've learned, I have gotten up, brushed the dust off, and I moved forward, and I bettered myself, and I grow daily from it. I win tiny little battles daily from it. And we're all going through our own battles. It's not like I sit on the throne of the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer, training clients. You know, going to their houses. Making my money, paying my rent in my apartment. I wasn't here, in a blink of an eye. So I earned this, and um, it feels much better, right? And a sense of self gratitude because I earned this. This wasn't given to me.
Right.
Nothing in this building was given to me. I built this, and again, I built this through failures, trials, and tribulations, um, support from a lot of great people, and help from myself, surrounding myself with a lot of spectacular individuals. But that's what I feel that the people I have around me share the similar mindset that.
Yeah. Yeah, strength isn't just physical, right? It's mental, right? It's not always about how much weight you can push around in the gym. Like real strength is pushing through when you're tired, staying consistent when that motivation starts to fade, and keeping your composure when life starts to, get hard. And the body follows the mind more than people realize, which is really, really important. So we're going to transition over to our next segment, a little bit more lighthearted. We're going to talk about the collector side of Dave. Okay. One thing people might not know about you is that outside of the gym, you're also a lifelong collector. So when did collecting first enter your life?
So it started probably like when I was about a junior in high school, which is eons ago. That's like in 1984. So I started collecting back then, and then life got in the way. I stopped in my 20s, and then when COVID hit, I said to myself, "Let me get back into this. I really enjoy it," and I went full blown right back into it. And I truly enjoy the hobby in the industry. It's like one of my favorite things to do, and I do with my son. He's more Pokemon, but I enjoy. I am big into it. It's what I do night and day. Well, you can see the stacks of cards. There's stacks of cards everywhere.
Yeah.
There's some monsters all over the place. Stacks of CC cards. So they're everywhere. It's a great thing. I love the hobby, and I think I'm gonna be doing it for a long time. But.
Yeah. Obviously, the hobby has changed dramatically over the years. So, what did the hobby feel like when you were growing up compared to today?
So it was more about, there was no grading back then, right? There's no slabbing in them or anything. It was more about the hobby. It was more about, you had a favorite player or a favorite team, and you wanted it to, open packs. Back when I was collecting, there was no mindset of, whoa, is this card going to be, I don't know, is this a 9 or a 10, and I got to send it out and get it graded, and maybe I'll resell it, or, there's 35 parallels to this card, and I got to get every single one. It's just, look, you open a box, and there was your favorite player, maybe Ricky Henderson or somebody, and you collected the set, and it was more about that with your friends. It was more wholesome, I want to say.
Yeah.
Now it's, look, I love it, but now it's, it's very competitive, could be very cutthroat at times, could be, some people could become very addicted to this and make some poor decisions, and it was a fun hobby back then. Now it's a hobby to me, but I'm very aware of the industry, so it's what I do. So I also I sell too, so it is what it is. I'm doing the national. I got a table, 3 tables at the national this year. So
Nice. That's awesome. You mean this coming national in 2026?
Yeah, in July in Chicago.
Awesome. Are you gonna, do you have like a showcase? Do you buy, sell, trade? Like, what's your deal at the national?
I buy. I don't. I usually sell more than I buy. If I see something for my PC, my personal collection, I'll get it. But I'm going to bring the family out this year. I did it last year. I'm going to bring the family out this year. Nice. My little guy to experience and stuff. But I'm basically a seller when I go out there.
That's awesome. Love that. So I want to share a daily reflection real quick. We write these journal entries every single day, and we've had a lot of folks contributing over the last year, which has been amazing. And so Martina is one of the contributors. She has wrote quite a few pieces, and I think you can definitely relate to the junk wax era of cards. And what I really loved about this piece is that it reflected on the nostalgia and the cultural impact of the Donruss Diamond Kings. You remember this? Yes. Yeah, they still make them like here and there, but they were iconic, right? Like, they were from the junk wax era, but they held such a special place to so many collectors, right? And so this piece really highlights how these cards stood out because of their distinctive painted artwork and just, accessibility. Like you were saying, there weren't parallels. You didn't have to chase to hit them. It really just, it felt special even without having to be rare, right? There was no sense of manufactured scarcity. And so, Martina shared her personal memories here of collecting them as a child and how the cards introduced, many other collectors to art and history and storytelling within the hobby, which is very rare today.
So vividly, it's crazy.
Yeah. Her big PCs, I want to say Jose Canseco is definitely one of them, and then she also has collected. That's her as a baby. Yeah, Canseco. She's from Canada, so I believe she roots for the Blue Jays. And then who was the other one? Who was the other big one? Was it Joe Carter? It might have been Joe Carter.
Yeah, it's right.
Yeah, she's awesome. She has some really beautiful stories to share, and so that's what the hobby is all about, and that's what we try to convey every single day at Collectors MD. So you mentioned that you're obviously collecting with your son now, and you're sharing that experience that you've enjoyed your whole life with him, which another beauty of the hobby is being able to pass that down. to the next generation. And so what's it been like watching him discover collecting? I know you mentioned that he's more into Pokemon, but still more or less the same concept, the same idea.
He still likes sports. He still likes the baseball. He helps me, when I unfortunately once in a while rip a box now open. But he helps out, but he likes Pokemon. It's been fun. I actually have a crazy picture up on my wall of him hitting. I don't think I can take it down, but no, I can't. But in any event, there's a really cool picture behind me of him hitting at the time a Wander Franco rookie.
At the time.
Right, at the time.
Yeah.
And he went crazy. It's one of I have it up on my wall. It's an iconic little picture for
That's awesome.
But it's a lot of fun. He's into the Pokemon now. He gives me his cars. Got to send them out and grade them and do the whole thing. So it's fun. It's something that he and I share together, and it makes the hobby. You ready for this? More tolerable.
Well said.
So if anybody can understand that, because there's a dark side to this hobby.
Yeah.
There's a dark side.
Right.
And I know this, and I initially participated in breaks. Your breaks. I used to.
That's right. BOGO breaks. Shout out BOGO breaks.
Right, breaks, and I was notorious for buying boxes and ripping them open. And in fact, that I built a closet half the size of my office that I'm in right now in my basement, right, that I house right now over 2,000 unopened boxes of every sport. If you open the doors, I have pictures of my phone. If you open the doors, you would think it's a store, right? Yeah. And I would buy at the card store where my friend owns, the baseball card store in Midland Park. I would have a secure relationship there. I would say, any product that comes out, I want 4 of. So any product that was coming out, I was buying 4 boxes of.
Yeah.
Insanity.
Yeah. Were you ripping any of them? Or?
Sorry?
Were you ripping any of those 4 boxes, or were you just
Here's the bad part. So I would put what I thought were potential big end rookies. Like I have a couple of, really nice boxes that I have a bunch of bombs in that I would put those away, but I would rip. And I'm ripping them and ripping them and ripping them. And I'm going to give sound advice to anybody who's listening to me right now, right? This is from me to everyone out there. I don't know if you heard it on or not. Do not buy boxes and rip them open. You will never get your money back. It is very, very rare. You might say, oh, I hit this, I hit that. I am telling you, go after the guys on eBay yourself. You like a guy, go on eBay, go on all here and do whatever you got to do. Ripping in the long run will never, ever add up to what you think it is. The thrill, the dopamine, the whole thing is great. Like, for instance, real quick, I went to the card store the other day, and I saw 2 boxes. Well, I saw a bunch of boxes of 2026 Topps Pristine, right? They're $789 a box.
I know, it's insane. Did you see what came out today? Bowman's Best at $600 a pop.
Okay, $789 a box.
Yeah,
right.
Insane.
And I'm saying to myself, what does the hardworking mom or dad do when they walk into that store and their child says, I would like to open a box of baseball cards.
Right.
You want them to spend $789 on the box? It's ludicrous. But guess what I do? I buy 2 boxes that day, right?
Right.
And I go home and I'm looking at them and I'm saying to myself, you know better than this, right?
Right.
I rip them, right? I call Max in, my son. I rip them. First box had a Jason Dominguez autograph. I must have lost $700 on the box.
Yeah.
Right? Had a couple of this. Next box, fortunately, I hit 2 bombs that were in the thousands, both of them.
Who'd you hit?
So I hit an Aaron Judge relic to 15 auto, on-card auto, purple.
Out of pristine?
But yeah. And then I hit a Nick Kurtz orange auto to 10. So we're talking, when it's all said and done at PSA, it's over 10 grand easily.
That's a God box, Dave. I mean,
God box, but it's not happening ever.
It's not happening. That's hitting the lottery.
Boxes I read prior to that,
right?
There's nothing in them.
Right.
Nothing in them.
Yeah, it's so important that like you're acknowledging that, despite the fact that you hit big. I mean, that's like hitting the lottery, right? But like you understand the stakes, you understand the odds, and how it's a glorified scratch off every single time if you're prioritizing monetary value. And so we focus on something that we call intentional collecting at Collectors MD. And so what that means is choosing cards because they mean something to you, not because they might go up in value or because every single breaker or influencer is pushing you to buy it. It's about slowing down, asking yourself why you want the card in the first place, whether it be for the player or the design or the nostalgia factor or the story behind it, right? When you collect this way with this mindset, the monetary value becomes secondary because the focus ends up shifting from like flipping and chasing hits and just worrying about comps to building a collection that actually reflects your interests and your memories. And so in that sense, the reward isn't just what the card might be worth someday. It's the meaning it holds right now. Right. So that's
correct. Really important. Correct. And I'm guilty.
That's okay. I'm guilty. We all are. I'm
guilty of both because I have my guys that I like, that I collect, and then I chase sometimes. I chase kind of Griffins. I chase a couple people, and I've been slaughtered by it. Wanda Franco, slaughtered. Nico Horners, slaughtered. Gavin Lux's, slaughtered. Dominguez is going to be a slaughter. Like the Volpe's slaughtered. But look, at the end of the day, I'm kind of a strange thing. I collect, I sell, and I also chase the people. But I'm telling you, exactly what you said is correct, 100%. So I have my guys that I go after. My Aaron Judge I like collecting. I also, without saying, I have a little unfair advantage. I have access to autographs, so that's my gig. I could get my cards auto. IP auto. So I get certain cards that I like to get autographed, and I collect them, and I keep them. But it could get ugly, man. It could get ugly. Like I for instance, I had a friend go. I sent him to the card store that I use, and he's like, calls me up from the store. He goes, Dave, wait a minute. I'm trying to buy a pack of cards for my nephew here. $40 for a pack.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, Dave. That's where we're at right now.
Right. You could buy retail at Target or Walmart or wherever. Like, for instance, I'm going to show you a quick example. You mentioned Connor Griffin. Like, I was fortunate enough to walk into a bunch of people, pay $50 for a mega, and somehow come up with this. Like, that's not every single time, right? Like,
what you just said is someone citing the Loch Ness Monster.
Right.
That's never happening.
Right.
You understand me? You walking into a Walmart, buying a mega box, and banging this card out.
Right.
It's one insane. Out of what?
It was Dave. It was the last box that they had on the shelf. I had a gift card because I've been very, selective with my purchasing, very intentional with what I buy these days because of my lived experience. And I said, you know what, I'll grab it. Sure enough, and the irony of it is when I went to go open the bonus packs, which is what you get in the mega, the Mojo parallels.
Yeah.
I did a quick, peek of if there was any color. There wasn't, right? So I just assumed it was a dud pack. So I kind of just flew through it, and then sure enough, it was the base auto of Connor Griffin.
Yeah,
you gotta be kidding me.
But that doesn't happen.
Never, ever.
So, but the problem is where people get crazy is what happened to me the other night. I rip open a box. There's Nick Kurtz and Aaron Judge, and now if I don't have the sense enough to make the distinction that this is luck, beyond luck, people go, oh, let me go back to that store because in those other 4 boxes are more of these cards. So I have $10,000 worth of cards here. If I spend another 50, and then they come home and there's nothing in the boxes, right? There's nothing in the boxes, and they get hammered, and they're like looking in their pocket for money the next day. Yeah. So it's not all what it looks like.
Right.
It's just not.
This is something we talked about recently. Our director of partnerships, Connor, he wrote this piece about survivorship bias, where you really only see the highlight reels. You don't see the losses, right? Like during World War II, the only aircrafts that returned that were assessed with like, holes in the wings and, damages, those were the ones that made it back. They didn't have the opportunity to assess the ones that, exploded or, ended up in rubble. Right. So that's survivorship bias. If you're just paying attention to the highlight reels and looking at, the monster hits that you see on your social feed, you're not going to be able to recreate that. And that's part of the problem in today's day and age, is that young, impressionable, but uneducated collectors, especially children, see these highlight reels, see these big hits, these monster hits on their feeds, and they want to copy and paste. They want to do exactly what these influencers are doing, and they go and they try and they fail miserably. And so this we have somebody in the chat that is asking, I hear buy signals a lot, but if your player is someone like Kurtz, for example, what do you do? And I'm assuming that the question is because Kurtz, somebody like Nick Kurtz, is so expensive. So what are your thoughts on this, Dave?
So like a guy like Nick Kurtz, right? I actually, this is a great question, because on my screen right now, I had all Nick Kurtz cards. I was hunting them down for a couple of throwbacks and stuff, because he's coming into Yankee Stadium. It's the Marlins and then Athletics. So nice. I'm going to probably get a couple of them signed, right? So I'm hunting Nick Kurtz right now. Yeah, he's got a couple of high-end cards, big cards. The one I hit raw is over $5,000. So if that's up on the screen, a guy like this is supposed to cough up $5,000 for a Nick Kurtz card? No. So what I do with someone that I like and I hear a lot of hype about him is I would go after. I would go on eBay. I would go after, and I would look at a couple auctions that are going off. And try to like take my chances in some lower end cards in the auctions, like go after oranges to 25, or base cards. If you want to really collect a guy, go after the chrome base cards. Go after some. What I do, I'm a big stickler. This is my gig in the card industry. Personally, I go after rainbows. I try to complete rainbows, right? And it gets crazy. Or I also try to complete an entire insert. Like if the anime inserts, I try to get every one of those. That's what I do. It's a crazy task, but it's what I do. So like Nick Kurtz, maybe you say, okay, so he has this card in 8 different colors. I want to go after him, right? And you try to fulfill a whole rainbow of Nick Kurtz, within reason. Yeah, so for instance, there you go. So the stadium clubs, they're beautiful, right?
Right.
They have these out, and they have these in about, I don't know. I was doing Mookie Betts the other night, almost every single color, right? So maybe you go to Nick Kurtz. There it is, $15.25.
Yeah, totally.
Offer, you tell the guy, hey, $10, and you grab Nick Kurtz, and you go to his next card with Stadium Club. Maybe try to grab the pink one. Maybe try to grab the black and white one. And then, probably for $100, you could probably have, maybe 6-7 of his parallels just from playing that game. But then you could go after some crazy Nick Kurtz cards that are a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of it. And what I did was I typed in Nick Kurtz green just to try to find some affordable color matches. And obviously a lot of these are going to be on the pricier side, but like if like licensing doesn't bother you, like here you go, green prism, Nick Kurtz, $10. Like you can collect whatever your heart desires. You don't have to collect the $50,000 like this. I mean, some of these are just priced outrageously, but like you don't need the first Bowman green sapphire number to 99 and a PSA 10 just to keep up with the rest of the crowd. That's not what the hobby should be about. Look, if you can afford this sort of thing and you love the guy or you love the collector, like by all means, but make sure that you are taking a step back. You're asking yourself the right questions. You're sort of going through that proverbial, checklist.
Make sure you could afford it. Make sure,
right.
Listen, you make sure you could afford this.
Yeah.
Remember, at the end of the day, this is, guys, I love the hobby, but this is paper. It's paper.
I just want to plug this collector real quick. His name is Eric Kearns Cards. I had a call with him this morning. We spoke for about an hour. He's got one of the best superfractor collections in the world. He owns the Conor Griffin Super First Auto. Yeah, massive card. And some people are able to do this sort of thing. Some people are able to collect. He owns the Adley Rutschman. He owns the Jackson Churio. He owns, it's insane. Like he owns the supers of like half these guys.
Wow.
You can see Tops posted. He owns 45 of the rarest baseball cards in the world. And here's a quick look at some of them. It's insane. And it's a beautiful thing to marvel at. And it's like impressive. He owns the Langford. It's incredible to look at and admire, but like not everybody has to have a collection like this, right? What are you showing there on the screen? Let me see. Is that Bobby?
That's Bobby Witt Superfractor.
Wow.
Right?
Awesome.
Topps finest rookie. Right? And that
it's sick.
And that is, I had to hunt that to complete that year's rainbow.
That's so awesome.
It's nuts. It's the only one on the planet.
Do you keep your PC mostly in the office?
Yeah, I got them at home too, but mostly in the office because there's a ton of cameras over here.
Yeah,
insured and stuff. But,
yeah, that makes sense.
So I have a ton of superfractors, tons of superfractors.
Yeah.
So do I. But look, I go after the superfractors because I have to complete a rainbow, so it's my thing. So like if I have the whole rainbow and I'm looking for the superfractor and it pops up, I have to make the decision. Fortunately, I'm pretty blessed. I could do it. I could play that game.
Right.
But you can have a great collection without playing that game.
Right.
You like you said, you popped up those Nick Kirchens. Those were beautiful cards.
Right.
Beautiful cards. And you don't have to get them graded.
Right.
You don't have to send it out for $34 now a card.
Yeah.
When I was talking to you, it was $11. When you were breaking back then, it was $11.
Right. It's crazy. It really is. It's crazy that some of these cards go for what they go for, but you don't need to own them. It's okay. It's like art. You go to a museum to admire art or a gallery or something like that. Like you don't need to own everything. You could still be part of the hobby and not have to spend, your 401k to keep up with everybody.
Bingo. And I say my advice is pick a sport and pick like 3 people that you want to chase, right? And that you want to really focus in on and chase and go after those guys and have fun with it.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. Just to tie this segment together, I think we were talking before about how collecting it connects generations, and cards have a way of carrying stories with them. A set that meant everything to someone as a kid can later be passed down or shared or rediscovered with the next generation. A parent shows a child the players, they grew up watching. A grandparent pulls out an old binder and explains why a certain card mattered so much back then. And those moments turn cardboard into something more than just an object. They become, a way to share memories, history, and perspective across decades and generations. And, the players change, the designs evolve, the game itself changes, the hobby moves forward, but the act of collecting together keeps that thread between generations alive, which, is why I think when you have a son and a father enjoying the same hobby that we did as children, it's just such a beautiful thing. And, we want to we want to make sure that people understand that despite the fact that the hobby is evolved in the direction it has, there's still a purity of it. There's still the joy and the nostalgia and the engagement and the connection that can be appreciated and enjoyed.
Absolutely. You know, the other night I was sitting down and my one friend he was doing a Mawa show, and he texted me that he was there, and I turned to my son Max. I go, Max, you want to hit a card show real quick with me? It was like last second, and he was like, yeah, it was on a Saturday. Boom, we jump in the car, driving around. He's checking out Pokemon cards. You know, you spend the time with your son, so it's invaluable. I mean, that is one of the best things about the hobby, what you just said, and you know, and that's what I love. I love, you know, when he says, hey, you know, he came out of his room the other day. He goes, Dad, I just put all these in this binder. What do you think? And that's the special thing. It has a great side to it. It has a great side. But it does have the other side. But as long as you can recognize that other side and not get lost in it, okay, and not get lost in it, because it will suck you up if you allow it to, okay? It will. I have seen it break men, right? The hobby, break guys.
Yeah.
They will come in my office and go, 2 days ago, one of my trainers, won't say his name, sat down and said, I was on Whatnot the other night and I got mauled for $2,000 for this card. What could I do with it? And I looked at it and asked, I mean, it was nicked everywhere. If it gets a 7, I wouldn't be surprised. And I looked at him and I said, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Right? And right there, I feel horrible. But then there's a great side, a positive side. A couple of years ago, I had one of my wrestlers that I trained strength and conditioning with come in. His father just lost his job. Brought a box in and said, Dave, I know you do cards. I want to try to help my father out. 15-year-old kid. And he goes, let me see. And look, you know, when you see all this garbage in a box, you're like, this is junk whack. This is nothing. Right. Well, in that box happened to be 4 of the best George Brett rookies I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
4. I put them immediately into one touches that I have in my office and said, Ryan, please do me a favor. I go home, talk to your dad, and send these out to PSA. I think I've never seen a 10 in this card. I think you might have 2 10s here. I go, and if you do, you guys will be fine for a little while.
Yeah.
Well, that's 3 9s and a 10.
Wow. That's what they graded?
Lots and lots of money.
Wow.
So that was a great story.
Yeah. You know? That's a good story.
But look, I love it. I want to change it for the world. I participated in it. I enjoyed your breaks. But also getting into breaks is no one sees the other 100 people who didn't get a card.
Right.
You know? No one sees those guys. Yep. Their names on the side of the screen going, hey, good job, good luck. Go ahead. You know, they bought a spot for $100, right? And they're not getting a card. Not a card. So no one see those guys. You know what they say? They say, boom, Aaron Judge rookie. We just hit it, and it goes to Dave P. Fit. Congratulations. And they're all like sitting there going, that's going to be me. That's going to be me. And then Alyx signs off. Bobo breaks. See you later. Thanks a lot, everybody. And a couple of guys didn't even get a card.
Right.
No one sees that.
Right.
Nope.
Yep. So, I love it. I love the passion. You're so spot on. This is exactly what we talk about every single day. So, I mean, we're right on the same page. We're on the same wavelength. So we're going to transition over to the next segment, which combines a little bit of what we talked about before with what we're talking about now. And that's discipline in fitness versus discipline in collecting. So one thing I've always noticed is how similar the mindset between fitness and collecting can actually be. I know it's like 2 very different things, but in fitness, the results usually come from patience and consistency, not shortcuts like we were talking about before. So do you see parallels between that and the way people approach collecting?
Yeah, I mean, discipline is discipline, right? You have discipline in fitness, you have discipline in martial arts, and you have discipline in card collecting, right? If you lose discipline in health and fitness, you're not healthy. If you lose it in martial arts, you're not going to excel. If you lose it in your discipline and you don't follow the rules, in card collecting, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get hurt in card collecting, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. If you stick by a couple of rules, which, look, we all have our own rules, right? You could have another guest on that says, Bull, I rip all the time and I get a ton of guys and I sell them and I do whatever. Great. That's fine. And there's an entertainment aspect of it, and it's fun. My entertainment aspect of it is with my son. That's why I rip. I'm fortunate enough to be able to buy a couple high-end boxes, and that's fine. But if you don't have the discipline to follow these rules, which mine are, don't buy boxes and rip.
Yeah.
You're not gonna win. Okay, it's like going to Atlantic City, okay, and pulling that lever. Yeah, 7-7. Oh, almost 7-7. Oh, almost 7-7. I did it. I hit it.
Yeah.
But that was 4 years in the making. You just lost 30 grand.
Right.
Okay, so don't rip. You're not going to get your money back. Two is, listen, you got to be careful chasing the prospects. All right, you're going to dump all that money into the prospects, and 90% of these guys don't pan out. They don't. Okay, so be careful. My suggestion is obviously vintage, and chase the goats. Chase the goats, chase the vintage. I go after Judge, Otani, and Witt. Right, those guys are monsters. Right, those are my two. And I love you. You own a company. You have Bobo Breaks, but don't go into breaks. You're the odds of you hitting a card in a break is the same thing as the slot machine down in Atlantic City. But the problem is that you see the influencers and the dopamine. They get that, oh my God, that was a 101 Otani. That could have been me.
Right.
Okay, but it's not going to be you. And there's great odds that it's not going to be.
Right. And
rules, that's the discipline you have to have on the card market. Enjoy the hobby. Chase the guys that you want. All right. Within your means.
Right.
And that's a discipline that I have in fitness. I wake up every day. I follow a certain set of rules, and the same thing with the hobby. I follow a certain set of rules.
Yeah.
That's how they cross connect.
Really well said. Yeah, and what you're describing with going to the casino and seeing the 7-7, so close. What we describe in addiction, that's called the near miss, and it becomes a sort of a mentality, and it's when you come so close to a big outcome but just fall slightly short. Right? And the same thing happens with collecting and with chasing and ripping wax and joining breaks, right? Like missing the card you wanted in a break by one spot, or pulling a parallel that looks similar to the big hit, but it's not, low numbered, or seeing the chase card come out right after, the break that you were in. So even though you didn't actually win, the brain reacts almost like you did. So that so close feeling creates a rush, and it makes it feel like the next attempt might be the one. It's a powerful psychological trigger that often pushes people to try again immediately, which is why you see people skunking in breaks and then just jumping into the next one. And then things start to unravel. It's why you see people go to the store and they buy one box. It's a dud. They just keep going until they hit something. But to your point before about, 4 years in the making, you just lost 30 grand. Yeah. What did it take for you to hit that $2,000 card? $8,000 in ripped wax? Great. If you enjoy the experience and you can afford to do it and it's entertainment for you, and that's going to be a PC piece and you're not worried about the monetary value, more power to you. But that's not how it works most of the time. And that's just not how, people are able to operate in a healthy and sustainable way, especially in the hobby. So, a lot of people in the hobby today, and it's a product of how it's engineered. It's a product of marketing. It's a product of just how the hobby has evolved. But a lot of people today are struggling with impulse, chasing the hits, chasing the quick wins, chasing the quick dopamine rush, like you mentioned before. So from your perspective as a coach, Dave, and you already kind of talked about this to an extent regarding discipline, but is there any more advice you would give someone trying to build more discipline, better habits when it comes to both collecting and fitness?
Yes. So I truly believe in this little technique that I use, right? I every night I have a notepad next to my bed, right? And every night I go home and I write down, right, exactly what I need to do, right, for the next day. And like, let's say, I wake up, I have to have my shake, and then I have to drive to work, and then I'm training at 12 with my partners. I have to have 2 meals and this amount of water in by then. And then, I work on my cards a little bit during the day, but basically at night at my house. And then I'm like, okay, I have to prepare this, and this, but I am not going to buy this card. I'm not going to chase. And I write everything down all the time. And I try to follow that, right? It builds a repetitive, a repetitive like discipline in me. And I try to follow everything that I write down, and it keeps me grounded. So I look at it, and at the bottom of my sheet, I always write what not to do, right? So I write, okay, Tots Prestine's coming out, although I bought 2 boxes. Tots Pristine, you're not buying it. I always write, okay, you know what? The wife's making brownies. I'm not eating it. So I have to, I'm very visual. I have to see what I do. So I write down everything that I want to do and everything I should do. And from there, that's my schedule of discipline with everything that I do. And that pad's on my bed, and I do it daily. And that's how I build my discipline in all aspects of my life.
Right.
It's black and white right in front of me. I know what to do. I know how to do it. And that's how I apply it. Right.
Yeah.
And I try not to deviate from that. Look, we're human, guys. We're all human. We're going to deviate. I bought the 2 boxes. We're human. We're going to eat the cheesecake. We're human. We might have that drink, whatever it is, but you always have to go back to the discipline. Right. You always have to find your way back home.
Right.
Because that will keep you grounded. All right. That will keep you grounded. And that's martial arts, working out, and here, and that's the bottom line for me. For me. It doesn't, my formula, my pad doesn't work for everybody. It works for me.
Yeah. Such a strong sentiment, and it's so true across the board. I mean, patience specifically, it's huge when you're trying to build something meaningful, whether it's your body, your career, or even a collection. It comes down to, like you just described, a regimented approach, consistently showing up, repeating the same fundamentals, staying disciplined, and keeping yourself grounded even when the results aren't immediate. And it's okay. It's okay if you step outside of that, regimented lifestyle once in a while. Treat yourself, slip up. Just because you slip up doesn't mean that, you fell off the wagon. You get right back up and you keep powering through. That's what keeps people grounded. And that's what's really, really important, to make sure that you're committing to. So our next segment is hobby, community, and relationships. So one of the coolest parts about the hobby, I think, is the relationships that grow around it. And you've got some incredible friends, including Action Bronson and CC Sabathia, who also share a love for collecting. So during the pandemic, we were, when we were breaking cards together, when I was working with BOGO Breaks, you were kind enough to send me a signed Action Bronson book. And I told you that I've brought some show and tell here today. I just want to make sure it shows up on screen. But this was his... I'll
tell you what, not to interrupt you, but that's a pretty special thing because he did something for you.
I know. It's so cool. Dr. Baklava. It's amazing. And, I've been a huge Action Bronson fan since before I knew you were even friends with him. And then seeing his journey with, losing weight during the pandemic and working out with you and, everything he's done, it's just such a beautiful thing. He's also just such an entertaining and interesting human being. So, he's somebody I certainly look up to. And that's a piece I'm always going to have in my collection. This one's not signed, but I bought this book when he came out with his cookbook.
Oh, yeah, the cookbook, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then I wanted to show you one other piece that I have here. Little signed CC baseball.
Oh, yeah, there you go. 54.
Yeah. I was at the Yankee inaugural, they do that like season or like inaugural, or what do they call it? It's like the beginning of the season dinner that they do in the city.
Right.
And this was early on in my career when it was my first job out of college. I worked at the New York Post, and I was able to go to that event. I forget exactly what it's called, but they do. I guess they did it every year. I don't know if they still do it. And so, me and a buddy of mine were walking around the venue. It's like, in this big gala, and we see Michael Kay. We see, I think it was Don Mattingly. And then all of a sudden, these guys just start filing in, and it's Mariano, and it's Derek Jeter, and it's Andy Pettit. There was CC Sabathia, the whole entire lineup. This was back in like 2012. And me and my buddy were like, we look at each other, we're like, let's just follow them. So we start following them. Nobody's paying attention. We go behind these curtains, and I pop in. I got a baseball on me. I see CC. I'm like, CC, you mind signing this real quick? He's like, oh, sure, pal. Signs it for me, no problem. Same thing with Cano. I got a ball signed by Robinson Cano. And then somebody saw us, and he was like, what are you guys doing here? Take a hike. We didn't get kicked out or anything, but we had to go back to our table. But that was a heck of an experience. And, CC is such a sprawling human being.
Listen, man. Listen, I'm going to go. I tell everybody who's listening right now. Not because he's my boy, right? He is one of the nicest guys on the planet.
Right.
On the planet. Like, you're talking about, the Yankee Hall of Famer, I mean, an icon, right? And
icon. He was my favorite pitcher when I was in college.
It's crazy. He walks in and he's always like, hey, I saw that video with Max. Do this with him. And he tells me what he does with his own sons, who are amazing athletes. And we just talk. He's just a normal guy. It's just everybody loves him. Everybody in here loves him. He's he never denied a picture or whatever in here. And that's while he's working out too.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, these are the kinds of things that just make the hobby so special. It's not just the cards; it's the stories and the friendships that come with them. So, how do you think collecting strengthens relationships like that?
So, I've met a lot of really good people that are my close personal friends now since COVID. Right, a couple of members come here. I met my friend Sean Carlo, my other friend George, Teddy. And then a lot of really big guys in the industry, and
yeah,
they're very good friends of mine now, and that's one of the great aspects of it. The networking, the camaraderie. That's another great aspect that needed to be mentioned. So that was important that you said that. So yeah. That's another great thing about the hobby. I've made a lot of relations. A lot of people collect that you would not think collect. It's kind of mind blowing sometimes when people walk in my office and go, "Wait a minute, you collect?" So do I, and it starts a nice conversation. CC, every time he's signing cards for Fanatics or Tops, whoever go to the house, he'll send me a picture and he'll be like, "Look what I just signed."
Yeah,
like 101. This. I'm like, my friend, can you make that fall into the garbage like nobody sees it and give it to me? Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Actually, Action Bronson was hired. Remember that? Look at me. So remember?
Project 100.
Okay, so he was hired to do a bunch of that. He did C. Yogi Berra. He did a bunch of people.
You sent me the Ricky Henderson that was signed. I have a friend who is a big Action Bronson fan. I kept the book. I gave him the card.
Oh, you gave him the card, right?
Yeah.
So what I had him do was I got every one of his designs, and I had him sign every one of his designs. So I had the card with the artist's signature.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Design, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a picture of that somewhere in my phone. It was the Ricky Henderson, and he drew, he drew like I guess that car that he drew. Again, I'll show him one more time for those watching on YouTube. But I guess this is like his signature, where he draws this like.
He's actually a very good artist.
It's iconic.
The guy's like multi-talented.
Yeah. You've obviously seen the New Balances he does, right?
Yeah, I have every pair.
Yeah, I'm a big sneaker guy too. I collected sneakers throughout my 20s.
I see the background,
yeah.
Gives me a pair every time. He just did a G-Shock watch. He does He does olive oil.
I know. I
he's a
love
chef.
the videos where he chugs the olive oil and like gargles it to taste it, test if it's
Well,
good
the book
quality.
you have, Fuck That Delicious.
Yeah.
He did an episode in the gym. So I told him, when my mother was alive, she used to make me these stuffed calamari, right?
Right.
And he did an episode of Fuck That Delicious in the gym parking lot.
I remember seeing it.
Remember,
Yeah.
and made
Yeah.
those from Mario
Yeah.
Battelli. He made those for me in the parking lot.
I remember you tasted it on video, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
I remember that. That was awesome.
It was
Yeah,
a
he's
fun
the best,
time.
man.
Right?
I haven't had a chance to meet him, but I'd love to at some point. He's just such an interesting dude, and like you said, so multi-talented. And at the end of the day, yeah, like the hobby, these different subcultures, not just the hobby, but like, even the world of cooking, right? Like he's a chef, he's a musician, he's into sneakers, he's into cards, he's into sports. I mean, the relationships matter just as much, if not more, than the objects themselves. So that is the beauty of it. We've got one more segment, Dave. It's called Fatherhood and Passing Down the Hobby. So as a father now sharing collecting with your son, what do you hope he takes away from the hobby?
So I'm pretty impressed with him now that he actually knows how to go like on eBay and research the cards and sees the values and kind of knows that, like, he learns a little bit of the business aspect of it. But what I want him to really take away is the closeness that he and I have built from this hobby. Like, it's something that we do together and that I cherish, and that he could pass it on to his son or his daughter when he has children in the future, and he could say to them, the picture that I have behind me, that's myself and my dad, that's your grandfather, and pass it on and pass it on and pass it on.
Yeah.
So that's what intrigues me. That's what I like about it the most, that I'm giving him memories of this hobby that we do together, and they're going to last him for a lifetime. And he will remember that. He will pass it on, and hopefully he will have some of the cards that I'm going to save to him and pass it along to him, that maybe he gives to his family, and he can tell a story about it and pass on the whole hobby to them. So that's what I love. That's what I love. The connection that it's actually, this hobby has actually brought us closer.
That's beautiful. Truly.
So that's what I like about it.
I love that. How old is Max now?
He just turned 12.
Nice. Yeah. So he's right at that age where, everything to a 12-year-old is just like, it's so exciting. It's like such it's going to become a core memory that, when you pass it down to the next generation, it matters, because collecting isn't just about the objects. It's about the stories and memories that are attached to them. Like, he's going to remember these moments for the rest of his life. And, when you share a collection or cards or, stories with someone younger, you're also sharing the history, the players, the moments, the experiences that, meant something to you. And it helps keep the hobby alive in a healthy way. Instead of just being purely transactional, it becomes something that's relational, a way to bond, teach patience, and show that collecting can be about appreciation and connection, not just monetary value. So what lessons do hobbies teach kids, and maybe, even other parts of even other parts of life don't?
So I'm always very, I always make Max very aware of what things cost in this hobby, right? So and so he doesn't lose sight that it's just, I could go out and buy a box. I could go get me a box, or go get me a pack or whatever. And I instill in him, for instance, I'll give you a little quick conversation. He had a friend on his iPad, and they were doing cards, and the kid, I don't know, had a couple of Don Mattingly cards. And my guy, this was a year ago, goes to him, those aren't worth anything, right? So I immediately jumped in there and I said, hey, listen, It's not about how much the card is worth. That could be his favorite player, and he wants to collect that guy. Max, it's not about what it's worth. It's about who your favorite player is, who you want to collect, what you enjoy, what you have fun with. It's not about the money. It's
Right.
not about the money. It's
Right.
about the hobby. And I try to instill that into him. I try to let him know that, listen, this is, certain people can't buy boxes. Certain people can't buy packs. It's about who they like, who they want to collect. It's about the love of the hobby. It's about the sharing it with their dad, sharing it with their friends, and just having fun with it. The financial aspect should be with my kid with kids. It's the last thing in it. Is the last thing about the hobby. It should be enjoying it right now and building memories, building up a personal little collection, and having fun with it. There's plenty of time for them to say, oh, this is this much money in a PSA 10, which I believe it takes away from,
Right.
And look, again, I'm talking, and there's slabs sitting here. So
Yeah, but you're an adult. You're not,
right. So
you're 100%
like,
spot
I
on.
don't want to be hypocritical.
That's all right, though.
I get
like, it's different. It's different for children. Like, children don't need to be walking around these card shows with
no.
tens of thousands of dollars worth of cards in their Zion case, wheeling and dealing with these adult dealers who, at the end of the day, are probably taking advantage of them in a lot of ways. So, it's on one hand.
I got a quick little story, and then we can wrap it up.
Of course.
I was at the National, and a 15-year-old kid came to my table, sat down on his case, and started rifling through my stuff and going, "Hey, I'll give you 80 for this." And I'm like, "Okay." And and I'm pretty. Listen, I'm so lenient, maybe too much sometimes, right? Like, show me the comp. You want to say take 10 or 20 off? It's yours. How I get them, how I do it, don't mean that to me.
Right.
So he rifled through. This was the first day at the National, and he goes, "Okay, I want all of these." I go, "All right, you add it up. I trust you." And he added it up, and he goes, "All right, there's $8,600 here." It was 14, 15 at most.
Right.
I go, "Oh, okay." And I'm looking, I'm like, "Is his dad around, or what's going on?" He opens his backpack and goes,
"Got wads of cash.
5, this is 3, this is 86. Good." And put it back. So I go, "My man, are you walking around the show by yourself right now?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have a card business. I do Whatnot, and I put these on Whatnot. And I make $5 or $10 on the card." So it was like a double-edged sword. He's learning the
exactly.
business.
He's learning the business. He's learning how to transact.
Right. But entrepreneur. But you got a kid who should be like, that Judge. That's my favorite player. I'm going to collect some judges instead of sitting down and do some transactions with an adult for $8,600.
Right.
So
it's a fine line. There's a balancing act, because, like, on one hand, like you said, it's important for these kids to learn economics and business transacting, and that's great, especially if they're savvy and they know what they're doing. But on the other hand, again, these kids look up to these influencers, and these influencers make some phenomenal content. I'm talking about like King of Cards and Josh Roth and Mojo Sports. Like, those guys are all great, but they have a lot of fans that are children, and the children watch them and they want to copy and paste the concepts, and they try to wheel and deal, and they just get obliterated at these card shows. And it's like, man, like, that's not what the hobby is supposed to be about. So, teaching this next generation is so paramount. And honestly, it's not just the kids, it's the parents. We're trying to educate the parents, teaching them the vocabulary, the language, the nuances. There's so many components of the hobby that parents just don't get, and they see their kids wheeling and dealing, and they just assume, oh, it's what kids do these days. But it's so much deeper than that, and we just need to do a better job of spreading awareness and educating. So one last question on this segment, and then we're going to do a quick rapid fire round before we close things out. But why do you think it's so important for people to have passions outside of work and responsibility?
Because I think the everyday grind, right, it takes a toll on the average person. I think the pressures of paying bills and waking up and it becomes a grind. And I think needed distractions are very welcome. Having a side little hobby where you can get away for a little bit and forget about, who's doing what politically or whatever, and go in your basement and look and a card reminds you of when you're 10 years old and you're with your dad in the park and you want to buy it. It gets you away for, even if it's a brief moment.
Right.
Gets you away from reality, which could be for some people, overwhelming. And I think little tiny hobbies and things that you could do just as a positive distraction in life are amazing. And that's why I think, to really be honest with you, the number one place obviously is a gym to me. You go to the gym and you forget about everything for an hour. So I think all these little distractions are welcome. That's what I think.
Well said. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the hobby should be about creating memories, not about all the hype, the pressure, the glitz, the glamour. So I think you're doing it the right way. You're teaching your son, the right things. And so, I have an incredible amount of respect for everything you're doing. So we're going to close out here, Dave, with the rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you a quick question. You're going to hit me with the first honest thought that comes to mind. You ready?
Go.
All right. Best exercise everyone should do.
Push up.
A card you remember pulling as a kid.
Ricky Henderson rookie.
A piece in your collection you'll never sell.
The first CC Sabathia card that he signed for me.
Most underrated part of fitness.
Nutrition.
Most underrated part of collecting.
Memories.
Advice for young athletes.
Listen to your coaches.
And advice for young collectors.
Go with your heart and rip open boxes only if you could afford it.
That was one of the most efficient rapid fire rounds we've done to date. This is episode 38, so I got to give you an A+ there. Dave, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing.
And before we go,
go ahead.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. That means the world.
Amazing platform and your personal journey. I'm proud of you. I know you're a long time.
Yeah, that means the world, truly. And, just thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your perspective on a lot of things. Before we wrap, I want people to know where they can continue following your work. Again, Dave is the owner of Impact Zone Fitness in Norwood, New Jersey, where he's been helping people build strength, discipline, and healthier lives for decades. If you want to learn more about Dave or Impact Zone, you can follow all of the links in the description below. And if this episode resonated with you, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it to help us keep pushing this conversation forward and join the ongoing conversation about healthier participation, intentional storytelling, and sustainable culture in the hobby landscape and beyond. The goal isn't to slow the hobby down. It's to support and protect what actually makes it meaningful, which is the people inside of it. If you're feeling torn between loving the hobby and feeling overwhelmed by it, Collectors MD is here as a free resource. We host free weekly peer support meetings every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern and a Thursday meeting from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern in partnership with the Problem Gambling Coalition of Colorado called Unboxed, powered by Collectors MD. You can find all of our content, tools, resources, and support offerings at collectorsmd.com. Be sure to subscribe to the Collectors Compass on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and all major streaming platforms, and check out our other two shows, Behind the Breaks and Collectors MD Features. I'm Alyx Efron. This is the Collectors Compass, reminding you to collect with intention, not compulsion. We'll see you next time.